Let me set the stage for you. Texas A&M in November, the Lone Star Showdown has finally returned in 2024. Conference realignment took a lot away from us, from the Civil War to the Apple Cup, but it gave back one of the best rivalries in all of college football, regardless of location. And I'm so excited for it, to be honest, because it's the final, last bullet point on our resume to be shipped off to a 12-team playoff committee, or potentially the last game before going to an SEC title game. I think this rivalry could surpass expectations and become more important than it's ever been. With the new era of college football, with more money being pumped in, NIL, transfer portals, and the importance of being able to be the best in your state, this rivalry could surpass expectations like we've never seen before. But before we dive in a little bit deeper, let's be very transparent here. You may look at my YouTube channel. You may be a new or returning subscriber, and it won't take you long to realize, yeah, man, I grew up a Texas A&M fan. So you may feel, hey, he's going to be biased towards Texas A&M. And I'm going to be very objective and critical of a program that just spent $70 million to get rid of a head coach, for a guy to not coach their football team. We wasted one of the best recruiting classes of all time by most websites. I'm going to be critical of Texas A&M, and I'm going to be critical of Texas and be very objective on those notes. So if you are going to push it against me and say I'm just going to be biased the whole video, listen, I don't know what else I can tell you, but I'm going to be very objective about this rivalry, because objectively, I don't know how many times I'm going to have to say the word objectively, it's awesome. I'm just happy it's going to be back, but I want to explain why this could grow into something that we've never seen before in this history. So with them playing in 2024, let's just talk about the direct year that this is going to happen. It's playing in Kyle Field. The last time they played each other, Justin Tucker was still in college, and he hit the game winner against Texas A&M. Personally, it's a very sore memory for me, but we move on. So let's talk about the year of 2024. What are the expectations for both sides, and what has been going on from the moment that Justin Tucker kicked that game winner when they last played to this point? Because I don't think this rivalry has really been dormant. Yeah, they haven't been playing on a football field, but they've been playing in other sports. And there's, of course, the social media beefs and the Twitter back and forth. Like, these two programs and their fan bases still have a major disdain towards each other. Like, I understand if you aren't a fan of either one, you wouldn't really understand it. But over the past 10 years or so, they still hate each other, man. There's no way around it. You could see it just more recently with Texas A&M versus Texas in the softball and the baseball world. They most recently played in a playoff setting. I believe it was the regionals or the super regionals for baseball, and I believe it was the College World Series for softball. Hey, man, I don't know what else to tell you, but these two teams hate each other. And it got worse on the baseball end when Texas stole their head coach, or A&M's head coach, basically not even 24 hours after A&M played for a national title. And yeah, there were some hateful words exchanged between the two fan bases, and now they've gone back and forth. And I can make a whole video about the baseball side of things. That is just an example of how this rivalry has been dormant on the football side just because they haven't played. But to be even fair on that point, they've still recruited against each other time in and time out, because they're basically next door neighbors as big powers in Texas. So they've always been going head to head verbally for the football field and trying to convince recruits to come play for their program. A&M kind of leaning into the, we play for the SEC. We've had success without Texas. We've grown without Texas. While Texas has more leaned on their pedigree, their history, their dominance in the Big 12, not really in the 2010s, but prior to that with their national title back in the 2000s. So when we get to 2024, we finally get to see them on the biggest sport for the collegiate level face off in Kyle Field. The last time that they played each other, obviously I just mentioned it, Justin Tucker hit the game winner, and it's the last game of the year. So this important game is the final punch in the mouth that each program can give each other as they get into the offseason potentially, because we could talk about the bowl games, we could talk about the 12-team playoff, and I don't want to do a one-for-one comparison of OU Texas and Texas A&M and Texas, but the one thing I will say is comparative on when they play each other. OU and Texas plays a lot earlier into the year. We saw it this past season when Texas lost to Oklahoma. They still made a Big 12 title game. They still made a playoff appearance. And so they kind of felt like they rebounded. Now, OU obviously still has the bragging rights of that win, but it's not as powerful as saying we got to screw over a team. Comparative with Texas A&M and Texas, at the end of the year, there's going to be situations with now the more access to the 12-team playoff, that there's a very real scenario that this year, with the way that the schedules land, say both, I don't know, I'm trying to, visualize it, maybe 9-2, both of these teams end up going into their games 9-2, which is realistic for Texas. It's not unrealistic. Like, they have some very difficult games. They play Georgia, they play Michigan, so maybe they lose both of them. They come in with 2 losses, or maybe 1 loss. My point being, they both have very real opportunities to screw each other over. And here's the biggest part about this rivalry, and the baseline of it, and the base of the hatred between the two, the records really don't matter. Texas A&M could go 5-6 going into this game, while Texas is 11-1, or vice versa, which it's more realistic that Texas A&M goes 5-6 because they've gone 5-7 recently, which I don't want to talk about. But the rivalry, the records don't matter. A&M, this is still their Super Bowl. And as Texas doesn't want to admit it, this is their Super Bowl as well. But they always want to be able to punch down. They want to do the little brother, big brother thing, which let's be very honest here. If you want to do the whole history thing, obviously Texas has the record. They were dominant for so many years within the 80s and the 90s and the 2000s. And so they racked up a ton of wins. But we're talking about right now, this is the most eye-to-eye that Texas and Texas A&M has ever been. Resources-wise, facilities, stadium, it is eye-to-eye. They are matching band for band when we're talking about investing resources into a program. Just Texas has the pedigree, they have the history, they have the national titles, while Texas A&M is trying to achieve that and meet that level. So when you're talking about these two programs that are meeting eye-to-eye, I think the intensity is just getting uplifted to a level that we have just not seen in a very long time between this rivalry, especially with it being, back to life. We're finally seeing it happen in November, playing each other. And it's huge for recruiting because, like I said, it's in November. When is early National Signing Day? It's December. And this is going to be one of those games where Texas, or Texas A&M, specifically in 2024, A&M is going to bring in as many 5-star recruits as they can. The next year, Texas is going to bring in as many 5-star recruits as they can, because it is just the easiest way to show a recruit, hey, we beat this team. Come play for this team because we can beat this big rival with no worry. It's a huge thing. And it's an easy way to show the traditions. I don't even need to get into the whole impact of visits and the timing of them, but this game is huge. Like, I make this video not only to show the progression and where I think it's going to land, but to also talk about, like, this is a huge deal that we got back. People have been waiting. As much as A&M was pissed that Texas joined the SEC, or that Texas wants to laugh at A&M being like, hey, we're going to come into your conference and dominate. And that's been like kind of the average notion from most Texas fans. I understand they're not the end all be all. Like, there's some Texas fans that are being realistic about the SEC schedule. And then there's some that are like, this is just as easy as the Big 12. Fully understand that. We got this game back. I cannot wait for it. I'm so excited. And to be honest, man, if we're just talking about this year, Texas should win. They have every reason to win. But then again, it is still going to be a coin toss regardless of how good these years end up going for the first year of Mike Elko or Sark. Maybe he continues the momentum from last year and gets that first playoff win. I'm so excited for it, man, because for so long, it's always been the best way for these two to meet up has been a bowl game. And maybe one side doesn't agree to it because you have to get both sides to agree to want to play in a bowl game. And there's been moments of like, oh, this is the opportunity, but it tends to end up being like Oklahoma State or Kansas State, some other Big 12 team that goes to like the Texas Bowl in RG. I don't know if there's anything else I can really speak to when we're talking about moving into the future, because we can talk about the history of this rivalry, but what I want these videos to be, because this is not the only one that I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about the Iron Bowl and all the big rivalries as we move into the future and what they're going to evolve into. But none better than the Lone Star one coming back to us, and I wanted to talk about that. But with that being said, if you are new to Rush the Field, man, thank you. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. If you're a new or returning subscriber, all I'll ever ask of you is give me a chance to talk football with you, man. That's whether that's a like, comment, or subscribe. I love hearing your guys' feedback, and so thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video, and have a fantastic rest of your day.